President Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, was walking through the market in simple clothes. No suit, no tie, not even bodyguards in uniform. Just a plain white shirt, brown trousers, and a cap pulled low over his eyes. Nobody knew it was him. Not the meat seller cutting goat pieces, not the woman selling bananas, not even the two young men pushing a wheelbarrow of onions. Why was the president doing this? He had been feeling disconnected from the people. His advisors told him everything was fine, that the country was happy. But his heart told him otherwise. "I want to see with my own eyes," he had told his wife earlier that morning. "I want to feel what the poor feel. Hear what they say when they don't know I'm listening." His wife had looked at him with worry. "Just be careful," she said softly. "You're a good man, but good men have many enemies." Ibrahim had smiled and kissed her forehead. "Don't worry. I'll be back before sunset." Now, as he moved through the crowd with two trusted guards dressed like ordinary men, nobody even glanced at him twice, until he heard it. A scratchy, broken radio tied to a wooden stick. "Breaking news!" shouted a young voice. "Danger in the palace! Traitors are planning to kill President Traoré tonight." Ibrahim stopped walking. The sound came from a boy, maybe 12 years old, wearing torn shorts and a dirty t-shirt. His radio was taped together with wires and plastic. The speaker crackled, but it worked. He stood on top of an old metal box, shouting into the street like a news reporter. "Enemies inside the government," the boy said. "They are planning to attack the president during a secret meeting. I repeat, there is a plot to kill the president tonight." Some people laughed. Others threw coins into a plastic cup in front of him. Most thought it was just a poor boy pretending to be a journalist. But Ibrahim's heart froze. He pushed through the crowd, pretending to be just a curious man. He walked up to the boy and whispered, "Hey, where did you hear that news?" The boy looked at him, confused. "Who wants to know?" I like news," Ibrahim said calmly. "I've never heard anything like that before. Is it a joke?" The boy jumped off the box. He looked serious now. "It's not a joke, Uncle. I heard it myself last night on my shortwave radio. Some men were talking in code. But I listened carefully. They said, 'Tonight is the night.' And they said the president's name." I swear, the boy looked around and leaned closer. "I recorded it. You want to hear it?" Ibrahim blinked. His hands suddenly felt cold. "Yes," he said. The boy nodded and pulled out an old recorder, the kind nobody used anymore. It was dusty, scratched, but still working. He pressed play. Static. Then voices. Faint, but real. "He must be gone before morning." "Tonight, when he meets the council. We have people inside. The guards will be ours." President Ibrahim's heart dropped. He recognized one of the voices. It was someone from inside his own cabinet, someone who had stood beside him just yesterday. He looked at the boy with wide eyes. "Do you know who these people are?" The boy shook his head. "Number. But I know where the signal came from. I traced the frequency. I've been playing with radio since I was 7. My father was a soldier. He died when I was small. I live on the street now. But radios are my world." Ibrahim felt dizzy. The ground under his feet felt like it was shaking. He had come to see the truth with his own eyes, and now he had heard it with his own ears. This boy, this poor street boy, just saved his life. "I need you to come with me," Ibrahim said. "Why?" the boy asked, suspicious. "Because I believe you," Ibrahim said, slowly taking off his cap. The boy stared. His eyes grew wide. You're... "I am," Ibrahim said, "but keep your voice down." The boy dropped the recorder. "You're the president!" "Shh," Ibrahim whispered. "Not here, not yet." The boy stepped back, shaking. "I'm sorry if I—" "You did nothing wrong," Ibrahim said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You may have saved my life." The The two guards, standing nearby, were now fully alert. One of them whispered, "Sir, we must leave now. If this recording is real, we don't have much time." Ibrahim nodded. "Take us back, but bring the boy. He comes with me." The boy looked shocked. "I can't go to the palace. I sleep in a broken bus near the train station." "Not anymore," Ibrahim said firmly. "Tonight you ride with the president." As they disappeared into the alley, the crowd went back to their business. The boy's speaker was still playing. "This is not a joke. The president is in danger." But nobody was listening anymore, except the enemies. Somewhere in that crowd, a man pulled out a phone and made a silent call. It's him. He knows. The presidential convoy moved like a silent storm through the streets of Ouagadougou. But tonight, there were no flashing lights, no sirens, no sound of screaming tires. Just a single black SUV speeding through back roads, avoiding traffic, avoiding eyes. Inside the vehicle, President Ibrahim Traoré sat next to the street boy who had just shaken his entire world. The boy sat stiffly, gripping the broken recorder like it was gold. He couldn't stop staring at the leather seats, the cold air conditioning, the shiny dashboard. "Is this real?" he whispered. Ibrahim turned to him and smiled. "It's real, son. You're sitting next to the man they're trying to kill." The boy blinked. "So, what now? Are you going to arrest them?" "Not yet," Ibrahim said. "If we act too early, they'll escape. We need to catch them during the meeting tonight." The boy leaned in. "What meeting?" "A private meeting at the Presidential Council. Only ministers and top security officers are allowed. That's when they plan to strike." The guards said nothing, but their faces were tight with tension. They had heard the voices on the tape too. One of them spoke finally. "Sir, we need a plan. They won't try anything unless they know for sure you're attending that meeting." "I have to attend," Ibrahim said. "If I don't show up, they'll know we're on to them. But this time, we'll be ready." He turned to the boy. "What's your name?" "Ismail," the boy answered. "Well, Ismail," the president said, "tonight you are part of a secret mission. You helped us uncover a deadly plot, and for that, I owe you my life." Ismail didn't know what to say. He had never been part of anything important. He had never even eaten dinner with a real family. And now, here he was, sitting with the most powerful man in the country, helping him plan a battle of shadows. "Can I ask something?" the boy said softly. "Of course," Ibrahim replied. "Why do they want to kill you?" The president looked out the window for a long time before speaking. "Because I stood up for the poor," he said. "Because I ended dirty deals with foreign companies. Because I stopped a few powerful men from stealing our country. And when a leader becomes a problem, they want to erase him." Ismail lowered his head. He had seen the poverty. He had lived it. No home, no school, no help. Just the street, the dust, and a radio that became his only friend. "You're not like the others," he said quietly. "No," Ibrahim agreed, "but not everyone likes change." As they entered the presidential gates, the guards quickly scanned the area. Everything looked calm, too calm. Inside the mansion, Ibrahim rushed to his private study with Ismail and the two trusted guards. He called in his chief of intelligence, a sharp man named Commander Coup, one of the only people he still trusted. Coup listened to the recording with a stone face. When it ended, he looked at the president and said only 2 words. "It's real." "You recognize the voices?" Ibrahim asked. Coup nodded. "Minister of Defense, possibly the Chief of Internal Security, and another voice I don't recognize." The president's heart sank. These were men who had sworn to protect the nation, men he had shaken hands with, dined with. "I want them watched," Ibrahim said, "but don't make a move yet. Let them attend the meeting tonight, like nothing happened." Coup nodded again. "And the boy?" Ismail stood awkwardly beside the bookshelf, still holding the radio. Ibrahim walked over to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "He stays here. Feed him. Give him a bed. He's done more for this country tonight than most politicians have done in their lives." The boy smiled. It was small, nervous, but full of pride. As night fell over the city, Ibrahim prepared for the most dangerous meeting of his life. He wore a hidden bulletproof vest. His guards carried silent weapons. Coup placed undercover men all around the presidential building. But even with all that, one question burned in everyone's mind. How many traitors were still inside? At 10:45 p.m., the council room lights were turned on. Chairs were arranged. Tea was served. Nothing looked out of place. By 11 p.m., the council began to arrive. They smiled, laughed, shook hands, as if nothing was wrong. But among them were the ones planning murder. At 11:10 p.m., President Ibrahim entered. The room stood. They saluted. They smiled. But his eyes scanned the room like a hawk. He recognized the voice from the tape. The Minister of Defense sat calmly at the far end of the table, sipping tea. The man who had once called him brother. Now, Ibrahim knew, that same man had said on tape, he must be gone before morning. But just as the meeting began, a hidden earpiece in Ibrahim's ear crackled. "Sir," whispered Secou's voice, "we have a problem. There's a suspicious signal coming from inside the room." "What kind of signal?" Ibrahim whispered back. "Someone is transmitting audio live. Someone is sending this meeting's conversation to an unknown location. There's a spy in the room." Ibrahim froze. It wasn't just a plan to kill him. It was already happening, and he had just walked into the lion's den. President Ibrahim sat still at the council table. His heart was beating like a drum. Sweat began to form on his forehead. He had just heard a whisper through the earpiece. "Sir, someone in this room is transmitting your voice. They're sending everything to someone outside. There's a spy among you." He looked around slowly. 12 men were seated, all dressed in fine clothes, all smiling, all acting like everything was normal. But one of them was secretly a traitor. Ibrahim had no time to waste. He cleared his throat and spoke with a calm, steady voice. "Brothers, thank you for joining me tonight," he said, forcing a smile. "Let's begin." As they started discussing matters of security and budgets, Ibrahim's mind was somewhere else. His ears listened to the voices. His eyes studied every small movement. Who was it? Was it the man scratching his neck too often? Was it the one constantly checking his watch? Or the one who hadn't touched his tea? Suddenly, Secou's voice returned in his earpiece. "Sir, we've narrowed down the signal. It's coming from inside the jacket of one of the ministers. The spy is wearing a hidden microphone." "Which one?" Ibrahim whispered under his breath. "We're still tracking, but it's someone on your left." Ibrahim turned his head slightly. On his left were 3 men. The Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Defense, the Deputy Minister of Security, 3 powerful men, 3 potential traitors. But then something happened. The Minister of Defense, the same man whose voice had been heard on the tape earlier, accidentally knocked over his cup of tea. As he leaned forward to clean it, the tablecloth lifted slightly, and Ibrahim saw something blinking red inside his jacket. It was tiny, like a dot of light, but it was enough. That was the bug, the transmitter. Ibrahim calmly pressed a button on the pen in his pocket. It was the signal. Outside, Commander Secou and his men received the message. "Go," he said to his team. "Operation Blackout begins now." Within seconds, all the power in the palace went out. Boom! Darkness. The whole room was pitch black. A loud gasp. Chairs scraped the floor. A few men shouted in confusion. Then, crash! A window shattered. Smoke filled the room. Guards burst in wearing night vision goggles. They moved fast, grabbing the ministers one by one before they could react. Within 30 seconds, the lights came back, and there he was, on the floor, the Minister of Defense, pinned down by 2 guards, and the tiny transmitter was found in his inside pocket. He was caught. Everyone stared in horror. "What is this?" the deputy minister shouted, pretending to be shocked. Ibrahim stood slowly, his voice now cold and clear. "I gave all of you my trust, but someone here chose betrayal." The Minister of Defense, now sweating and breathing heavily, screamed, "I was forced. They threatened my family. Please, Mr. President, I had no choice." Ibrahim looked him in the eye. "You had a choice. You chose power over honor." Guards dragged the man out of the room, but then, just when everyone thought it was over, another voice shouted from outside, "Sir, one of the guards has run off. He escaped through the back door." Ibrahim's heart sank. There was more traitors. And worse, someone had helped them from the inside. He looked around the room again. He could feel it now. Fear, guilt, silence. He turned to Sekou. "Search every staff member, every guard, every cleaner, every cook. Someone is still helping them." Sekou nodded. "Yes, sir." But as they walked out of the room, Ibrahim suddenly stopped. He had forgotten something. Ismail, the boy with the radio. He had left him in the mansion's guest room, safe. Or so he thought. Now his heart dropped. What if the escaped guard was going after the boy? What if someone wanted to silence him before he could speak again? "Get me to Ismail, now!" Ibrahim shouted. He ran down the hallway with 4 armed guards behind him. His shoes echoed loudly in the marble halls. He reached the guest wing. The door to the boy's room was wide open, and the room was empty. No Ismail, no recorder, just an open window, and a small spot of blood on the floor. The president's heart dropped. He stared at the blood on the floor, frozen in place. His guards stormed the room, shouting orders, checking every corner, looking under the bed, the table, behind the curtains. But it was too late. Ismail was gone. "Find him!" Ibrahim roared. "Seal every exit. Search the entire palace." "Yes, sir," the guards responded, scattering like ants. Sekou arrived a minute later, panting from running. He saw the blood and clenched his jaw. "Sir, this was planned." Ibrahim felt cold all over. "You think someone took him?" "Yes," Sekou said. "He was the key. The boy had proof. His radio, his tape. That makes him a target." Ibrahim looked out the open window. It faced the garden wall. Whoever took the boy, they didn't go through the doors. "They climbed out," the president whispered. "Probably used the tree near the kitchen window. That wall is only 6 feet high." Sekou nodded. "I'll check the CCTV footage." "No," Ibrahim said. "Don't waste time. Cameras were probably disabled. Go to the radio tower. See if anyone picked up strange transmissions in the last hour." "I'm on it." As Sekou ran off, Ibrahim clenched his fists. They were moving faster now. Someone inside the palace had helped the traitors. But even worse, they had taken a child, a poor boy who risked everything to help his country. And now he was missing, maybe dead. Ibrahim refused to believe that. "He's alive," he told himself. "He has to be." Suddenly, a low-ranking palace guard came running. His face was pale. "Mr. President, I saw something just before the blackout. A man in a servant uniform entered the guest wing. He didn't look familiar. I thought maybe he was new staff." Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. "What did he look like?" "Short, heavy-set, scar on the left cheek, limp in his walk." The president froze. That description was familiar. "He's not staff," Ibrahim said. "He's a former soldier, a man we fired last year for spying." "You mean Captain Caleb?" the guard asked. "Yes," Ibrahim said. "And if Caleb is involved, this is bigger than we thought." He turned to the head of his guard. "Lock down the entire palace. No one gets in or out, and double the security on my wife and children." "Yes, sir." But even as orders were shouted and soldiers spread out across the property, Ibrahim's mind was somewhere else. Back to the broken radio. Back to the boy's serious face. Back to the moment the boy had said, "They're planning something tonight." And now he was gone. Meanwhile, somewhere in the dark outskirts of the city, a van bounced along a rough dirt road. Inside, Ismail sat tied to a chair, his mouth covered with tape, his eyes wide with fear. Across from him sat a man with a sharp smile and a scar on his cheek. Captain Caleb. "Well, well," Caleb said, lighting a cigarette. "You caused a lot of trouble for powerful people, boy." Ismail tried to shout, to warn someone, but the tape held him silent. "You shouldn't have played with radios," Caleb said coldly. "That mouth of yours is going to get you killed." The other man driving the van laughed. "He's just a kid. Let's finish him and dump the body in the river." But Caleb shook his head. Number the boss said to wait. He wants to hear what the boy recorded. And if it's dangerous, we hand him over to the foreigners. Let them deal with him. The van turned off the road and entered an old warehouse. The doors shut behind them. Ismail looked around. Dust, rats, crates, darkness. This was it. His heart beat faster. Was this where he would die? Then, something strange happened. Caleb reached for Ismail's recorder. He pressed a button, but nothing played. It was blank. No voices, no tape, no recording. "What the—" Caleb said. "Where's the audio?" the driver asked. Caleb grabbed the boy by the collar. "What did you do? Where's the recording?" Ismail just stared at him with fire in his eyes. Caleb ripped off the tape from his mouth. "I hid it," Ismail whispered. Caleb punched him in the face. Blood flew from the boy's lip. "Where?" Ismail spit blood on the ground. "You'll never find it." Caleb growled and raised his hand again. But then his phone rang. He picked it up. "Yes?" A voice on the other end said, "Change of plans. The president is closing in. Take the boy to the airstrip. The jet leaves in 30 minutes. He must disappear." Caleb nodded and ended the call. "You're lucky, rat," he muttered. "You're going on a long trip. After that, who knows?" He shoved the boy back into the van. Ismail's hands were bleeding. His face hurt. But inside, he was smiling, because they were wrong. He had hidden the recording. But not in the palace, not in his clothes, not even in the radio. He had hidden it somewhere no one would ever think to look, in the broken speaker on his street corner, back where it all began. And someone had just found it. Back at the palace, a young janitor, barely 18 years old, was cleaning the market speaker that Ismail used earlier that day. He noticed something unusual. The back was sealed with tape. Curious, he peeled it open. Inside was a small, hidden memory card. He turned to the security officer standing nearby. "Sir, I think this belongs to the president." Inside the palace command center, Commander Sekou rushed in, holding the small memory card. "Sir," he shouted, "we've recovered the boy's recording." President Ibrahim turned from the balcony where he'd been staring into the dark. His face lit up with shock and hope. "Where did you find it?" "A janitor," Sekou said, out of breath. "He found it hidden inside the broken speaker Ismail uses to shout the news." Ibrahim's hands trembled as he grabbed the drive and plugged it in. And then the truth came alive. Clear audio played out. "He must be gone before morning. The guards are ours. The boy? He knows nothing. Take him out quietly." The room froze. Every officer, every intelligence head, even Ibrahim himself stood in silence. These were not rumors anymore. This was proof. Proof that enemies, foreign and domestic, had joined hands. Proof that they wanted Ibrahim dead. And most importantly, proof that a street boy had been right all along. Meanwhile, at a private airstrip on the edge of the country, a black jet prepared to take off. Ismail, bruised and bleeding, was dragged up the steps. Caleb walked behind him, whispering coldly, "You should have just shut your mouth." But as the engines fired up, a black helicopter appeared out of the sky. Thump, thump, thump. It descended like thunder. Soldiers dropped out with rifles aimed. "Drop your weapon!" a voice shouted. "Hands in the air!" Caleb pulled a pistol and grabbed Ismail as a shield. "Back off or the boy dies!" he screamed. The soldiers hesitated. Then, bang! A shot rang out from behind. Caleb fell to his knees, blood pouring from his leg. Ismail tumbled forward, free. Behind them, stepping out of a second helicopter, came President Ibrahim Traoré himself. Yes, he had come personally. "You hurt my people," he said calmly, walking forward. "You tried to sell my country. You stole a child from my home." Caleb groaned. "It's not over." But Ibrahim shook his head. "Number it is." He turned to his men. "Arrest everyone. Burn that jet if you have to. And bring my son home." That night, the whole nation watched the president on live TV. But this time, he wasn't alone. Ismail stood beside him, wearing a clean white shirt, a fresh bandage over his eyebrow, and the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. The president raised his hand. "My fellow Burkinabe, tonight we were nearly destroyed from within. People I trusted tried to take everything from us. But one voice saved this country. One boy, a child of the streets." The room filled with applause and tears. Ismail stood quietly, overwhelmed, unsure what to say. But the president held his shoulder. "From now on," Ibrahim said, "this boy is part of my family. He is proof that the voice of the people matters, no matter how poor, no matter how young." In the weeks that followed, arrests were made, trials began, dirty secrets spilled out. But something more powerful happened too. The people woke up. They saw that truth could come from anyone, even a child with a broken radio. President Ibrahim created a new unit called the People's Guard, an intelligence group made of students, volunteers, and ordinary citizens trained to report corruption and protect the nation. And at the center of it all was Ismail. He got a home, a school, a future. But more than that, he got respect. He became a symbol of courage, of truth, of the power of one voice. And every Sunday, President Ibrahim would sit with the boy on the same old corner, listening to the radio as it buzzed with news and static. "Still works?" Ibrahim asked once, holding up the dusty speaker. Ismail smiled. "It always works, sir. You just have to listen closely." They laughed together, and far in the distance, across the rooftops and the trees, Burkina Faso stood a little taller that day, because one street boy spoke up and saved a nation.